So the 4-step process is pretty simple. It is step 1 is design. Step 2 is prototyping. Step 3 is tech design. And step 4 is manufacture. So I'm going to go into all those in a little more depth so you understand what we mean by each one. And I want everyone to know we do have a YouTube channel. This webinar and many other webinars are up on our YouTube channel. We try to keep them short, sweet, to the point, and give really helpful tips to apparel entrepreneurs. So please check that out, subscribe, comment, like. So step 1 is design. And for us, design means that the planning of your product is done. So once you've completely planned out what your product is going to look like, what it's going to be made out of, what kind of trims are going to be used, once all of that is planned out, to us, step 1 is done. We really like to spend a good amount of time on step 1, making sure that the plan is what, we as apparel experts think will work, and then you as the brand owner know will work for your brand and for your vision. So it's much less expensive and much quicker to make reiterations to drawings into the plan than it is later on. Once you get into cutting and sewing prototypes, then it becomes a little bit harder and more expensive to start changing your direction. So, what do you expect during step 1 design? We have a few deliverables during step 1. So one thing is we do some tech drawings. So as you can see on this slide, we have a tech drawing. This is a pretty technical garment. It's a cycling bib. So you can expect to get 3 to 4 drawings of each style that you're going to produce as options. So for instance, this client came to us and said, they wanted certain things. They wanted a cycling bib. They knew they wanted a breathable back portion. They knew they wanted it aerodynamic, maybe some other things. So this is an example of one of the cycling bibs that we drew for them. We also drew a few others. And so we give you the drawings and you get to review the drawings. We'll have a meeting with you, it can be in person or via phone, about the drawings, and we'll go over the options. And so our goal is to get to a final illustration of what we're going to make for your products. A lot of times people will say, oh, I like what you did to the back on this product, and I like what you did to the leg on this product, and then maybe we can combine them and make your final drawing. But so we really want to get to that final look of what we're going for. So once you've got your sketch finalized and you know what it's going to look like, then we're going to give you several options, 5, 10, 15, depends on how many types of fabrics you have in your garment. But we're going to give you several options saying, we think these fabrics are appropriate for your garment and are good for different reasons. And we'll kind of walk you through why we chose each fabric. So for instance, we may have sent you a fabric that has a really good price point, and it's readily available in small quantities, and it would work for your product. But maybe we'll send you another fabric that's, amazing, and it's beautiful, and it's, the most best hand fill fabric out there. But it might have a downside of high price point, or it might have higher minimums in order to get some fabric. So we'll kind of walk you through all the different options and why we chose them. And then you as the business owner, we're asking you to make that final decision of what fabric we're going to go with based off of all the different options and reasons we chose them. The last thing that we're planning during step 1 design is label design. So again, we come up with different options. We draw different labels for you. Label design can actually be way more complicated than you think. It's something many people think about towards the end. We like to think about that at the very beginning because we have made it into manufacturing in the past too many times where the whole product is finished and ready to be manufactured, but we don't have the labels yet. And so then manufacturing has to stop while we wait for the labels to come. So we really tried taking care of that during the beginning process because we still have to create, sample, and test all of the labeling right along with the prototypes for the apparel. There's a whole bunch of different options for labeling. There are some compliance laws that come into play for labeling, so we're going to make sure that your garments are following those laws. And then we're also taking into account branding and how you want to brand your label and brand your garment. Just to reiterate, step one is design, and that's finishing your plan, which includes the drawings. It includes choosing your fabric, and it includes choosing your labels. So once that is finished, we move on to step two, which is prototyping. And this is the fun part. This is where you actually get to start to see some samples. So the first thing that happens during prototyping is we take your drawing and the fabrics that you've chosen, and we send that into our pattern making department, and they create a pattern for your garment. A pattern to us it's the 2D shape that we cut out of the fabric that will be sewn together. It's essentially, it is engineering, it's pattern engineering, and it's impossible to get a prototype made without having a pattern made first, because that is what will be cut out, that gets sewn together. Then we cut and sew your sample. And we do all of that right here in Minnesota in-house. We have a sampling department who's, very well versed at sewing things in a production-friendly manner and making sure that everything looks professional. One thing that you might be surprised to know is during step two, prototyping, you have to expect 2 to 3 rounds of prototyping before something's perfected. So, let's go back to that cycling bib example on the previous slide. When we go to make that prototype, we're going to make a prototype. The client is going to get the prototype. They're going to wear test it, fit test it, and undoubtedly there's going to be some tweaks. I've been in the apparel industry for over 15 years, and I have yet to see the first, well, maybe once, but to see the first prototype be absolutely perfect with no changes. So just remember to expect 2 to 3 prototypes before you're actually finished with step two. One thing to note is, we do everything in a production-friendly manner. We make sure when we're making that prototype that it is going to be manufacturable, and we're making sure that we're putting it together in a way that can be where we can control the quality. It's very different than going to a tailor or a seamstress and having them make you a sample, because they're not trained and they're not keeping in mind, is this going to be production friendly? Are these methods we can use to manufacture it? So sometimes we do get people coming to us with a sample that's made by a tailor, which is fine, but we kind of have to go through step two again to re-engineer how the garment's going to be put together so it's ready for manufacturing, because that is our goal during step two. Another thing that's happening during step two, so we're making everything in one size. And so let's say a size medium, for instance. And once that size medium is absolutely perfect, fits great, functions great, looks great, everything's great, then we go and grade the pattern into all the different sizes. So that sort of happens towards the end of step 2. And we do that based off of your brand's body measurements, which we can help you determine what those are, and kind of walk through how to come up with your brand body measurements. But if you've ever noticed, no two brands fit alike, unfortunately. So we have to determine how you want your brand to fit, and we're going to grade the patterns or create the patterns in all the sizes according to the demographic of your brand. That concludes step 2, prototyping. So at the end of that, you're going to have one of every size in your garments that fit perfect and are constructed absolutely perfect. And that's when you know when you're done with step 2. All right, so the third step that we do is tech design. So tech design is compiling all of the information from step 1 and step 2 and putting it into a series of documents that's called a technical design packet or a spec sheet, and it's kind of getting everything in one place to have a manufacturer know how to manufacture the garment. So it has, it lists specs for fabrics and trims, all the information about the fabrics and trims, such as the content of the fabric, the type of woven or knit that it is, the weight of the fabric, the trims, the finish of the trims. If you have a snap, is it a metallic finish? Is it a brushed nickel finish? Is it an antique brass finish? Different things like that. Just every little minute detail. So whoever's going to manufacture your product, whether it be us or any factory anywhere around the world, they're going to be able to read this tech design packet and know exactly what your specifications are for manufacturing. Also, during tech design, we list points of measure, which is very important to control your quality. So these are, on your tech drawing, we'll do a series of measurements. If you can see at the bottom of this slide, we have the red lines that are indicating where different measurements are getting called out. And then we're going to list what those measurements should be for each size. So if you're offering small, medium, large, extra large, and if you look at this strap length of B, then we're going to list out what the measurement should be for each different size for that strap length. And then one of the important things we're including are tolerances. So, during the manufacturing process, there's going to be a little bit of give and take of tolerances. So for instance, the strap length, we might have a tolerance of 1/4 inch, and we could say plus or minus 1/4 inch. It has to be, meet this measurement within plus or minus. And it really helps control your quality to have this done, because if a manufacturer were to ship you goods and they aren't matching your specifications or matching your measurements, then you have something to go back to help you reject the goods, because they might not fit or they might not be acceptable. Another thing that tech design is doing is we're calling out the construction methods and the directions for putting together the garment. So, I think one of the biggest secrets in controlling quality in the apparel industry is the International Standards Organization stitching information. And I've just got a little snippet of what that chart looks like here. But if you do not call out the ISO stitch information, you can find yourself with a product that's falling apart pretty easily. Some factories overseas, it's much cheaper and quicker for them to take bigger stitches, to use cheaper thread, to use a cheaper stitch, so they try to cut corners on labor. But sometimes that will cause your garment to literally just fall apart after a wash or two. So I'm really big on making sure that the ISO stitch information is called out, and you are, telling them what kind of stitch to use and how many stitches per inch and things like that to really help control the quality. And so that actually concludes step 3, tech design. So at this point, you've done step 1, 2, and 3. You've had your design all planned out. You have all of your prototypes that are exactly perfect. And now you have a document that has all of the information of how to manufacture it in one spot. And so that package from step 1, 2, and 3 can be manufactured here at our facility, or you can take that package and you can manufacture it anywhere in the world. And then step 4, which is the part we've all been waiting for, is the manufacturing. So once everything's done, then really it's just repeating the process in a bulk fashion. So at this point, you're just put in your bulk order with the factory. You make sure that they have made a counter sample to prove that they can make it to your specifications, and you put in your bulk order. We accept orders, 100-piece minimum is our minimum, but every factory is different. And you put in your bulk order, they cut it, and they manufacture it. Typically how the manufacturing process works in apparel is, it's assembly line type production. So if you're making a shirt, maybe all the sleeves are getting sewn first, and then all of the necks are getting sewn second, and then maybe the hems are all getting sewn last. So even if you order 1,000 pieces, they're all kind of finishing at once towards the end. One thing I wanted to mention is we do offer an academy. There's 3 different types of academies, so I encourage you to check them out on our website under resources. Otherwise, I can talk about them here. We have a mini academy class, which is just a one-time consult with me and a design manager and a tour of our facilities. So we kind of do a kickoff class. We consult with you with what's your plan of your product, what are the challenges you're going to meet, what are some recommendations we have, and then a tour of the facilities. The second one we have is the 4-step academy. So that's a series of classes that we really go in depth, teaching you how to be a good apparel entrepreneur. We're not going to teach you how to pattern or sew. We're going to teach you on how to own an apparel brand and how to make sure you're making good decisions in the industry. And then the last option is a personalized academy. So that's a series of classes and consults throughout your project that are all one-on-one. And we offer free consults, so if anyone has any questions, we have 15-minute free consults. You can contact us at info@Clothier Design Source or give us a call, also on our website, clothierDesignSource.com.